everybody. My name is Maeve. Welcome to the first ever video on my channel. I really like costuming and I'm involved in the SCA. So I do historical costuming using historical techniques that they would have in medieval times and across all ages pretty much. So I'm very, very interested in different things. So amongst my learnings, it was very hard to find resources online that showed me how to do things. And I would take classes, and the SCA has some amazing teachers that teach classes. And I would learn, and I would bring home booklets and pamphlets, and I would do it and do a great job. And then a month later, when I went to do it again, I would completely forget. I am a very hands-on learner. I need to see it being done. I need to do it in front of me. And that's how it kind of gets into my brain. Now, pardon me, I don't have any makeup on and I don't look amazing today, so I'm not having my face on camera. I will get better over time, I promise. But I'm making this as a tool and a resource for people to follow along so that if they do come to a class that I teach, they get the handout and then they have the YouTube video link that they could always come back to at a later time, just in case they want to brush up on an area or something like that. So this is definitely the first video, if you can't tell by how nervous I am. And this one we're going to be teaching how to make medieval buttonholes, fabric buttons to be exact. So here is a fabric button handmade. Got a bunch of different ones. And I made these specifically for this dress. Notice that they match. Now this is a sleeve portion to a 14th century cotehardie, Western European cotehardie. And here I'm doing the buttons. I made the buttonholes, and in another video I'll be showing how to do eyelets because that's also in the class. So these are what the buttons look like attached to the sleeve, and they work just like actual buttons. They go right through. This one is going to be cut off right underneath the elbow going down to the wrist. So there you go, and that's what it'll look like afterwards. I'll just put that to the side. So what you're going to do is you're going to go ahead and start, and please note this, it is my first video, so if you have any suggestions on how to get better or anything like that, please let me know in the comments or shoot me a message. I'm happy to learn. I love learning. So here I just have some scrap fabric. This is medium weight linen, 100% linen. This is my preferred cloth to use, especially being down in Florida, because it's hot. While going to Gulf Wars and stuff, I will wear wool. And if you're gonna make buttons out of different fabrics, just realize that the density of the fabric, what it is made out of, does contribute to the size of the button. So I prefer, and it's all personal preference unless you're doing an art site project, which then you'll follow the instructions and whatever documentation you have. But I prefer about this size buttons, about, I guess, pinky now. And it's what works for me. I've noticed, especially on the front of my gowns, it doesn't leave much gaping. The buttons are almost touching each other, and I just prefer that size. So for me, with this, with medium weight linen, it's gonna be about 1.5 inches, and I use this. It's just kind of played around. It's almost 1.5 inches, just under. And I'm gonna take this and put it on my fabric that I want the buttons made out of. And for this video, just because of visibility, I'm using high visibility stuff. So I'm gonna use a permanent marker so that you can see the markings, and I'm using a red silk thread so that you can see the difference in the fabric and the thread as well. So I'm just gonna go around and just mark it. Now I'm using a permanent marker here, like I said, for visibility. What I do prefer using when I'm using it on gowns that I'm gonna be wearing is to use heat erasable ink. And this is just a personal preference. I like heat erasable ink because it marks on the fabric and it doesn't go anywhere until you iron or steam it out. Unlike chalk, which you could use chalk, but chalk tends to break up, and if the more you use it, the more it goes away. But I also don't like using pen. I don't like anything that you would be able to see that you can't get out. So the heat erasable ink is a winner for me, and you can get it on Amazon. I'll shoot a link below for you if you want. And it's great because you just go over it with the steamer or with anything, and it's great for, like on this, I mark, this is the left sleeve. You know, I've got to trim it up, and I mark my seams, and there you can see I used a red one for it. It literally isn't going anywhere, and then if I take a steamer to it, it goes away and you can't tell. So I like a little secret. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna do that. You have your circle there. And just take your fabric scissors and cut out the circle, which will be our button. And it doesn't have to be exact, but know that with time, it is best. With practice comes perfection, but don't push yourself to be perfect from the very beginning. Okay, so we have our button here, and we have our thread and needle. Like I said, I'm using silk thread. I prefer Gutermann. It's a very nice thread. It's got a great feel to it. I've noticed that with silk thread, I don't have to use wax as much with my hand stitching than I would with like cotton. It's also more historically accurate to use silk or linen thread. Linen is going to be a little bit thicker, and you're going to want to wax it so it'll go through the fabric easier and not get as knotted up. But use whatever you have. But like I said, I'm going to be using the silk thread, and I'm also going to be using my John James needle, my sharp, just because I really like those needles, and I can. So here I have my needle. I've threaded it doubled. There you go, doubled and knotted at the end, about 6 or 7 inches, which is more than enough. You don't want to go much longer than that. It's going to get knotted. So what we're going to do is we're going to start at this side of the button and go down and do a straight stitch, not very far off. We're measuring it's 1/4 of an inch, or sorry, 1/2 inch, all the way around. And you're going to do this with no tension. So as you keep going around, just make sure it's evenly spaced. And make sure again that you have no tension so that you're not pulling it, it's straight. And you're gonna get close to the edge without getting too close, because you don't want it to fray open. You simply want it to just be along that edge. And I've got to say I'm about 1 centimeter or 2 in from the edge of the fabric. I'm just gonna do 5 or 6 straight stitches around. Not too many, but not too less. And we're gonna stop right where we started, where that knot is, so that it looks like this. So as we're doing that, we've got it. Here's the other side. This will be the outside of the fabric. This is gonna be the interior of the button. And then we're just gonna take and very carefully pull that tension on that button. If you can see what's happening, that's the forward side of it. And this is kind of what it looks like. It kind of looks like a pouch, if you've ever seen like a leather pouch or the beginning of a purse. And we're just gonna kind of flatten it down. Fingers are amazing to use for these things, tension and such. And you can manipulate the fabric into kind of doing what you want it to do. So then we have more like a shape like this. Thinned it out so it's a thinner circle. I want to take our thread and needle, and we had just finished off there. We're going to repeat the same process again, kind of following through these folds, but we're also going to make these stitches much smaller. So we've pretty much gone down by about half. And the aim of this is to make it more of a circle than an octagon shape. We don't like the straight angles. We're gonna want it round. So we're just gonna go around like this. Very small little stitches. Again, no tension. And fold in the raw edges. Just like that around. So we've made it all the way around. We have no tension going on this. And what we're gonna do is kind of use our thumb to cup the middle of it. And we're gonna start pulling some tension on those buttons. I'm sorry, tension on the strings for the button. And as it's going, just pull slightly and kind of roll in your left hand. That's what I do. I have the thread going in between my pointer finger and my middle finger. And I'm holding and just kind of manipulating it as I'm pulling with the thread in my right hand, just ever so slightly. Don't want to do too much force because it will break, and that stinks. So with just pulling it through, it kind of looks like this, like one of the Pac-Man ghosts. And what we're gonna want to do at this point is kind of lock it in so that it doesn't unravel. As you can see with a previously done button, which is a little bit larger, it's locked in the bottom. This one kind of looks like an octopus. So what we're gonna do is start tucking everything in and locking those edges in. So just kind of go through the different edges and pull, and make sure with this that you have that tension. You don't wanna pull too hard because you don't want your fabric to shatter, or I'm sorry, your thread to break. But you want to make sure that it's nice and tight as well. As you go through every couple of stitches, I just do a couple locking stitches in there. Keep rolling it around while I'm pulling. And as much as it may look like a pain, I'll tell you, I started this project with the handmade buttons and buttonholes on a flight out to Arizona, and it was very therapeutic to just sit there and sew buttons the whole time. Kept my hands busy and therefore my mind busy, and I like that. So we're just gonna keep going through. And honestly, at this point, my hands have gotten callous from how much I hand sew. If you find it difficult to push it through, please use a thimble. I know that a lot of people say it's not truly a project until you bleed on it, but that's not accurate. So we're just gonna keep pushing it through and doing some locking stitches here and there. And you can see with the high visibility thread, because I'm using the red on the green, you can see where it's kind of making that knot at the bottom, and you just want to make sure you get it nice and get all of the little folds so that a button won't unravel. I would rather replace a million buttons than have to have one on a dress that's unraveling. So there we go. We've knotted it all through. We've made a little ball. It's nice and as round as it's gonna be, and just throw an extra couple of locking stitches in there. And to do that, I just put it through, keep it like that, go around twice, and then pull it through, and that locks it in for me. So what we're gonna do is just leave maybe an inch on there, trim that off. So now you have a button with a little tail on it. And there you go, and that's your first button. Congratulations. Next video will be on making buttonholes, so stay tuned or skip to the next video. Like I said, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, anecdotes, short stories, or haikus, please put them in the comment section for me. I would love feedback about how to get better at this. You have an amazing rest of your day.